Junior welterweights, Juan Arroyo, Arthur Clarke. You heard the controversy. You saw it here on ESPN. The low blows in that fight with Clay Davis, and they would like to have made that fight again, but Clay Davis still not back in action now.
He took a lot of punishment, but that's why this makes this fight important for Arroyo.
Let's go to Romero Ortiz, our ring announcer.
Ladies and gentlemen, the main event of the evening is in the junior welterweight division. Fighting out of the blue corner, he's wearing the white trunks with the red stripes. He is from Nassau in the Bahamas. He weighs in at 140 pounds with a record of 13-4. Ladies and gentlemen, Arthur Clarke. Clarke. And his opponent, fighting out of the red corner, he is wearing the maroon trunks. He is from Miami, Florida, weighing in at 138.25 pounds with a record of 19-1-1. Ladies and gentlemen, Juan Arroyo. Arroyo. 10 rounds, referee Bill Connors.
Let's go to referee Bill Connors.
All right, you're both familiar with the rules of boxing. You're giving instructions this afternoon on a clean fight. Let's keep those punches up above the belt line. Let's not be holding and wrestling in there. Any questions? Shake hands. Good luck to both of you.
Arthur Clarke, 140.25 pounds, 13-4 with 3 knockouts out of Nassau, the Bahamas, and Juan Arroyo from Miami, 19-1-1, 11 KOs, his only loss, that disqualification against Clay Davis. Arroyo, just a young man, 19 years of age. Clarke at 25.
Arroyo very anxious to show that he is a little more disciplined in the ring than he showed against Clay Davis. He's got a very good left hook to the body, especially when it lands legally. It works for him. And he's got pretty good hand speed and a very aggressive fighter.
Well, he was very concerned after that fight against Clay Davis, which was seen on ESPN. His first national exposure, that people thought he was a hot dog or a clown or whatever. But let's face it, he did hit some low blows. You saw him sticking his tongue out on 2 or 3 occasions, and he says, well, let's just rack it up. Maybe it was my bad day. And he says everybody deserves one of those, so we'll give him one.
Well, indeed, and that's what makes this fight, I think, so important. In Clarke, as I mentioned at the outset of the show, he's not facing a tremendous puncher. I don't think Clarke hits as hard as Davis does. Davis had Arroyo down. Clarke more of a boxer. And, so for Arroyo, the idea is to back him up and work the body and the head.
Juan Arroyo, a native of Puerto Rico, now living in Miami. He does have socks on, folks. You can't tell it. Most fighters wear the real high socks, but Juan goes for the beach look and has the anklet socks.
The beach look.
Junior welterweights, and of course Arroyo very concerned that his first nationally televised performance put him in bad light amongst boxing people. And a young man, obviously, with a lot of ability, just 19 years of age, looking to redeem himself somewhat.
This first round much different than his fight with Davis. In that fight in the first round, Davis put him down. There was some wild action. Here, very much a feeling out process for both fighters.
Well, he not only lost the fight, but his Florida lightweight title in that particular bout. Clarke from the Bahamas, very stand-up, erect, almost a European sort of style.
You can see Arroyo just waiting to uncoil the left hook to the head of Arthur Clarke.
Hold it, breaking there. Watch the hold. Step out.
This is a very tentative start for Arroyo, much more so than I thought we'd even see.
Well, maybe he feels he has to be that way, considering what happened against Davis. He's a very aggressive fighter. He throws a lot of body punches. And we'll see what happens here. Our feature event, Juan Arroyo and Arthur Clarke.
Arroyo, aggressive, did get in a left hook that landed just slightly to the head of Arthur Clarke.
Arroyo is a body puncher. That's his staple. And when you get disqualified for low blows, do you think there's a tendency on his part to stay away from that particular area?
Well, they indicated before the fight in comments made to us and to the press, he and his manager Mark Ferrioli, that he would not, that he would go to the body. So far hasn't done so very much.
Let's see how Al Bernstein unofficially scored that first round.
Well, I gave it by a very narrow margin to Arroyo. Nobody did very much work, but Arroyo did, I think, do a little bit more effective work later in the round. Another Arroyo, Harry Arroyo, excellent lightweight, may well be taking on Cubanito Perez, who's here in attendance tonight, a junior lightweight, a junior welterweight and lightweight that we've seen on ESPN. We saw him recently against Ricardo Jimenez, so that's a fight that may materialize down the road.
1 minute into round 2, scheduled for 10 junior welterweights. Juan Arroyo in the maroon and black trunks, Arthur Clarke in the white with the red trim. We're at the James Knight Convention Center in Miami, Florida for this edition of Top Rank Boxing on ESPN. I'm Roger Twyville along with Al Bernstein. And we're looking at a young man in Juan Arroyo who just landed a good right hand. And Arthur Clarke now hanging on as Arroyo pummels him to the body with a number of shots. And that is the Juan Arroyo that we know.
That's right, and he landed 4 or 5 really good body shots, all legal we might add. And that's what he wants to do. He's picking up the pace here as we head into the latter stages of round 2.
Both fighters approached this bout in different manners. Clarke had about 3 weeks' notice, said he had plenty of training time. Arroyo went back and found a videotape of a fight that Clarke had in 1982 against Pedro Laza and did some studying on it. And some fighters, I guess, Al, like to prepare. Other fighters say, hey, I'm going to fight my fight regardless of what the other guy does.
You know, at this level, often, even in main event fight at this point, you just don't often get to see your opponent. There are many times when you don't, and, you know, I would think it's always an advantage, but as you say, there are some fighters that just don't really care too much.
Arroyo dug one into the body, and Clarke ties him up.
A lot of people in the Bahamas watching Arthur Clarke in his first big exposure on a national basis, and he is hoping that he'll give a good performance for them.
He said his family would be looking on in Nassau, the Bahamas. And we've completed 2 rounds scheduled for 10. Our feature event, junior welterweights, Juan Arroyo and Arthur Clarke.
He blasted the stomach of Arthur Clarke 4 or 5 times in the second round.
Very quick hands has Juan Arroyo, and quick feet.
Those quick hands, I think, allowed him to win the first 2 rounds. I gave him the second round also, so 28-18 for him.
Arroyo with his back to you. Clarke, the white trunks.
Clarke was in the ring, though he lost the decision to Termite Watkins, who was once a highly ranked fighter. And he's been in with some good people. And that loss to Laza, a good example. And only 4 losses in his career.
Arroyo told me, the weigh-in when we were talking to him today, that he says, I'm not a bad guy. He says, but when I get into the ring, he says, I get a little wild sometimes.
Well, you know what I think had an impact? He was knocked down by Davis the first time in his career he'd ever been down, and I think that shook him up a little bit. He got a little bit, I think, out of control, stuck his tongue out, and I think that caused him to do some things that he might not otherwise do. Tonight, a much more disciplined performance, and we should point out that in all our dealings with him and our 2 trips down here, he's been very,
absolutely,
you know, he's been willing to cooperate with us in every way.
So, rack it up as a bad day. That disqualification to Clay Davis, and Juan Arroyo is back on another night against Arthur Clarke, who has 6 years on him. At age 25, Arroyo just 19. A couple of good right hands by Clarke got in.
Clarke is a very clever fighter. Relatively hard to hit. Arroyo was having a little bit of a trouble getting past his defense. Not a big puncher, however. Clarke does not have that really big punch, and I think it's something that he'll need at least to establish some power against Arroyo.
1 minute left in this round. Round 3 scheduled for 10. Well, Arroyo's been very patient. We've seen him come up with a couple of flurries in both the first and second round, but just when he thought they were there, he didn't try to force anything.
See Arroyo trying to lunge in, get underneath the jab of Clarke.
He felt Clarke was a very straight-ahead fighter, and that he was going to try to be very active, move around, a lot of lateral movement. Straight right hand by Arroyo snuck in, and Clarke ties him up against the ropes. That's the end of round 3. And we'll keep it right here at ringside at the Knight Convention Center in Miami. We go into the corner of Arthur Clarke.
Maybe you have to call him and see
Mark Goodman, David Ham working the corner of Arthur Clarke.
And I'm sure one of the things that they're telling him is that as we look in on the other corner of Arroyo, Clarke needs, I think, to establish some kind of offensive weapon. And for Arroyo, as we look in on him, they want him, I think, to get inside a little bit more, Clarke, if he can.
So far, Clarke has shown us a very erect style, pretty good defensive boxer. As we get set for the bell, 10 rounds, junior welterweights, and round 4. And the Al Bernstein scoring machine lights up once again.
It's hard, really, to decide who to give that third round to because there's so little done. But Arroyo really was the only one that landed any effective punches, so you have to give him the round, I think.
Well, Clarke, I think thinking more about defense than offense, maybe.
He's been very tentative over these first 3 rounds, and the only real punching of note has come from Arroyo, and Arroyo hasn't been that active. The number of punches here, not what you would normally see in a junior welterweight bout. Normally, many more punches would be thrown at this point.
Right hand by Arroyo, and Clarke now will hold on as we're 1 minute into round 4. Arroyo trying to go underneath of Clarke. Clarke very erect. And Clarke with a slight height and reach advantage on Juan Arroyo.
Breaking there, step back, keep him up a little bit.
That time referee Billy Connors warned Clarke about keeping his punches up a bit.
It is noteworthy to point out that Arroyo has not received 1 warning yet, and I don't think any punches are straight below the belt.
But you've got to believe his opponent has to be very conscious of the fact.
Yeah, Clarke, but I said I can't do anything about it. I just have to hope the referee would enforce the rules.
There you go. Arroyo came down
Clean.
with a couple of left hands to the body. Straight right miss, but he caught the left on his way in.
Break. Hold it in there. Break clean.
I
Step
think it's going to be up to Arroyo to make this fight. Arthur Clarke just not that interested in any sustained offensive effort, and I think it'll be up to Arroyo to rumble on the inside and see if he can make something happen in this fight. We all hope he will.
He is an exciting fighter, and as we mentioned before, was disappointed in his national television debut that he did not show well, was disqualified. He has a lot to prove tonight. Good showing here. Could vault him on to bigger and better things in the junior welterweight division. Well, a lot of bouncing around, a lot of dancing, but not a lot of punching here in the 4th round. And Top Rank Boxing continues for Miami right after this.
Breaking it. Hey.
Scheduled for 10, and the way it's going, we should get a 10-rounder. Juan Arroyo and Arthur Clarke, neither fighter throwing a lot of punches.
view from the ceiling here at the United Convention Center. Hope our cameraman doesn't get a nosebleed up there, huh?
Right hand landed by Arroyo. Now he's digging to the body on the inside. Look at those punches. Had to be at least a dozen.
Well, that's a body attack. He so much likes to land. You know, Clarke didn't even wince for those. And I'll tell you, Clarke does look like he's in excellent condition for this fight.
Clarke is a former soccer player and is native of the Bahamas. Said he played basketball one time, but that was a game for the tall guys.
He said he wasn't too thrilled with that sport.
A friend of his was involved in boxing. He went to the gym with him a couple times, and the friend quit. Arthur stuck with him. Good right hand by Clarke. That was his best punch in the fight.
Breaking there, step back.
And the first time he's really thrown that right. He's not known as a right-handed puncher. The jab and the left hook are his principal weapons. And he has been scoring with that right.
17 professional fights, just 3 knockouts for Arthur Clarke.
Step back.
Clarke very willing to hold on once Arroyo does get on the inside, and which for him is probably a sound idea, because on the inside is when Arroyo can do some real damage. Arroyo
started fighting professionally at the age of 16 and a half.
Step out there.
Still amassed about 40 amateur fights, so he's been in this game for a while. He's still a teenager. But as a lot of Latin fighters very early start.
Well, indeed, yeah. And down here, I think it can generally be said, this may seem like an overgeneralization, I think the southern fighters based in the South, both here and throughout the South, tend to get an earlier start.
Good work inside by Arroyo as he landed a couple of uppercuts to the head, then went to work on the body. Clarke might have made a mistake that time by lifting his left arm and grabbing Arroyo around the shoulder, because Arroyo then went with the uppercuts to the body. Less than 30 seconds to go in the 5th round, and this has been a good round for Juan Arroyo.
All right, breaking there. Step out there. Break clean.
That ends round 5. We'll keep it right here at the James Knight Convention Center in Miami. This is our featured bout, welterweights, junior welterweights, 10 rounds, Juan Arroyo and Arthur Clarke.
I like on the inside, digging body shots. The stomach of Arthur Clarke, look at that. I mean, that's maybe a 10, 12, 13 punch combination. He loves to go downstairs.
There's a good look at Juan Arroyo. He started to pick it up here in the last couple of rounds, Al.
He has picked up the beat and started to get inside a little bit more on Clarke and making those punches count there.
We mentioned earlier in the fight that we had some problems with the ring with the heavyweights. They had the carpenter who was putting it together. He was missing some boards and had to get out some different sort of boards. And it really hasn't affected the lighter weight fighters here. Right hand snuck in by Arthur Clarke.
They drenched Juan Arroyo with water after his corner.
I was just going to ask you that. Is there any particular reason? Does it help the fighter at all to drench him in water?
I don't think it helps at all. That's, you know, in New Jersey, they get on the tournament a lot when they do that. There's a lot of water all over Juan Arroyo.
Cut on the right eye of Arthur Clarke right now. And it could have been from a headbutt.
They clashed that several times in the last couple of rounds, and Clarke even complained about it. So whether it was a cut or just an accidental clash of heads, I don't know, but there is a cut right over the eyebrow.
As we are in the early stages of the 6th round, scheduled for 10. So Arthur Clarke's corner will have to go to work on that between rounds.
And whether it's because of that cut or not, but Clarke picking up the pace a little bit, at least he is forcing Arroyo backwards.
Clarke now moving against the ropes with Arroyo. Sometimes a headbutt out can come not from the opposition, but if you're leading in with your head and you crack heads with the opponent.
Well, that's right, and both fighters have been leaning in a bit with their heads, so it is possible that they become initiated accidentally by Clarke.
Right hand by Arroyo really slipped
Step out of there.
off the side of the head of Arthur Clarke. 1 minute left to go. And this is the 6th round, scheduled for 10. Arroyo in the dark trunks, Arthur Clarke in the white trunks, and this is second chance night for Juan Arroyo here on ESPN. As his initial debut was a disqualification, and a good left followed up by some body shots by Arroyo, and Billy Connors will step in and separate him.
Let's go.
Arroyo going right back to work on the body.
Step out there.
That left hook appeared to stun Clarke the first time in this fight. I think Arroyo's hurt him.
Break clean. Let's go.
Blood really streaming out of the right eye. It's a right hand by Arroyo, and Clarke now forced to throw some punches back. As Clarke has not been that active offensively. And we'll go to the corner of Arthur Clarke as they'll go to work on that right eye.
All right.
Zach Goodman in there working on that cut. They've got their work cut out for them.
It's okay. It's okay. Take it easy. Take it easy. I got it.
Again, the body work of Arroyo. There he landed a good left hook and then went right downstairs to the stomach of Arthur Clarke. And Clarke bullying him against the ropes, trying to get out of trouble, really.
We're getting set for the 7th round, scheduled for 10, and the last couple of rounds, Al, Arroyo's really picked up the pace a little bit, and he has made Clarke throw a couple of punches. And there appears to be a delay. The bell has not been rung yet.
This is definitely a little more than a minute to get the bell.
And now Billy Connors, the referee, says hold it.
Okay.
Now they're going to go. Apparently they were checking something out with the ring. It's been a little different, to say the least, here tonight. Is the moon out over Miami tonight, Al?
I was just going to say, the moon over Miami may well be full.
Well, we are through 6 rounds, and this is a good time to check the Al Bernstein scoring machine.
I've got Arroyo winning 60-55, and you know, in a fight in which the action has been so sparse, that really does seem like a tremendous advantage for him, but Arthur Clarke has done so little punching, it's hard to get him around. I've won even.
Get out of there.
The cut is closed over the right eye of Arthur Clarke, and Arroyo, who really started to assert himself in the 5th round, closing moments of the 4th round, actually. And the bell is just rung again.
Well, I think they accidentally rung the bell. It must have been at 2 minutes or something. I don't know what that was all about.
We need Jimmy Jones back in the ring. He can appreciate this sort of scene.
There's a little bit of chaos, but only a little bit here at ringside with the bell situation.
That cut is not reopened above the right eye of Arthur Clarke. And every time Arroyo tries to go inside, Clarke's first move is to tie him up. So a very defensive-minded effort here on the part of Arthur Clarke.
Arroyo trying to take the action of Clarke, but when he gets inside, Clarke invariably holding on.
And the cut has reopened over the right eye of Arthur Clarke.
It's in a very bad spot. Not that much blood coming out of it, but it's right on the eyebrow.
One of the few times we've seen Clarke lead with a punch, and Arroyo got a left in on that particular exchange. Less than 10 seconds to go, and this is the 7th round. Well, not even 10 seconds, as a matter of fact.
Let's see the towel, Val.
Top Rank Boxing will continue here on ESPN from Miami after this. Mr. Clarke, apparently a couple of his buddies are in the crowd here, and they just came up to the corner and said, how bad's the cut? Maybe we shouldn't continue. And Clarke's corner was telling these guys to get out.
Unsolicited advice.
We had a little bit of everything tonight here in Miami.
I'm telling you.
8th round, Juan Arroyo. Now starting to exchange some with Arthur Clarke. Is Clarke getting back in the thick of things?
Well, Clarke has said, hey, I'm obviously not going to win this fight fighting defensively. I may take some chances here.
8th round scheduled for 10 junior welterweights. Right hand lead by Clarke.
One punch that Juan Arroyo uses so sparingly is the jab. There he tries one at short, but he just can't seem to get that punch home.
Well, he seems to be keeping his distance, Al, from Clarke, and it seems like when he moves in, he's looking for the combinations and not really trying to set the jab up at all.
You know, considering he is fighting a fighter in Clarke with only 3 KOs, someone who does not have enormous power, though there he landed a straight right, you would think Arroyo would getting inside, pressing the action a little bit more. I know that's what his handlers would like him to be doing.
Clarke has landed consecutive straight right hands against Arroyo here in the 8th round.
Break clean, let him alone.
Billy Connors is having a problem. Clarke doesn't want to separate. He keeps leaning in, wanting to hold on. Right hand got in by Juan Arroyo, and another right hand. Now Clarke's really hanging on, but Arroyo goes right to the body.
Let's go.
Indeed, Connors steps in. Clarke doing so much holding. It would not be out of the question for him to get a warning or a point taken away by Connors if that continues.
It appears there's a cut under the left eye of Juan Arroyo. We'll have to see if that's just blood from Clarke's cut, or if that is a cut to Juan Arroyo. It appears to be a cut under the left eye of Juan Arroyo.
Just a small nick. I don't think it's anything that would give him too much trouble.
And I believe that came from a headbutt also.
It could well have. They've been clashing heads really all through this fight.
And there was a low blow on the part of Clarke, and Connors got in to separate them. Arroyo with the right, followed up with the left, and Arroyo keeps trying to fight his way out of these punches. Clarke just won't let him do it.
When Juan Arroyo really attacks, when he comes in and slips under the jab and starts throwing punches, he's very effective against Clarke. Really hasn't done that much, though.
Clarke landed a left hand as he fell away from Arroyo. No damage done. Winding down to the end of the 8th round. We're scheduled for 10 here in Miami.
All right, break in there. Let's go to your corner.
Ringside here at the Night Convention Center in Miami. We're set for the 9th round, and Juan Arroyo has really started to assert himself in the last couple of rounds. Both fighters with cuts. Clarke over his right eye, Arroyo under his left. Neither serious cuts, both from headbutts.
All right, break in there. Let him alone. Break clean.
And Al Bernstein now with a wide margin for Juan Arroyo.
Well, Arroyo really, I think, has won virtually all these rounds. Some not that big, but he's the one doing the punching, except for an occasional right hand from the jab Clarke. Not much coming from him at all. In the boxing vernacular, Arthur Clarke is a survivor.
Well put, Al.
Thanks, Roger.
And he survived 8 rounds so far. We're in the 9th round. Arroyo trying to open up an attack, but Clarke is one of those fighters that grabs, pulls, and the right hand, and a good one got in by Arroyo that time.
And on the inside, Arroyo works that body very effectively. If not for Clarke holding on, I think he would do some very good work.
Right hand missed there by Arroyo.
Oh, they're breaking there.
And Billy Connors, the referee, losing his wireless microphone right now. Now he gets it back in his pocket. Crowd getting into it now.
Ray, get out of there. Break clean.
You know, Arroyo has given us very much a Jekyll and Hyde look. The first time out, he was extremely wild, and that cost him. This time, he may have been a little too cautious during this fight with Arthur Clarke. Maybe a little overreaction on his part.
Well, maybe the next time out, it'll all fall together for him.
Be right in the middle next time.
Cut over the right eye of Arthur Clarke. Bleeding badly now. Less than a minute to go in this 9th round. And Arroyo with the body shots. And Clarke grabs a hold and walks him out to the center of the ring.
It's getting harder and harder for counters to break the two fighters. He took a long look at the cut over Clarke's right eye.
The blood is not running down into the eye. The cut is on the corner, so it's coming down the cheek, so it's not interfering with the side of Arthur Clarke. Now Billy Connors wants to take a look at the eye.
I'm a little surprised he didn't just have the ring doctor look at it, but maybe in between rounds they'll do that.
Less than 30 seconds to go in the 9th round, scheduled for 10 junior welterweights. In Miami, Juan Arroyo from Miami, Clarke from Nassau, the Bahamas. And Arroyo throwing a lot of punches. Clarke, the veteran, had his left arm hooked over his head of Arroyo, holding on in that flurry.
The good names for less.
Aggression from Arthur Clarke, but at least he and Arroyo stared at each other. That was at the end of the 9th round.
I think you hit it right. That's about as aggressive as Clarke has been in this fight. 10th and final round. And Arthur Clarke has had one ambition in this fight, and that's to go 10 rounds.
Well, it would appear that way. Not done much offensively now. He's on his straight boxing.
There you go.
This kind of, if he had been throwing that jab as he just was a moment ago in the earlier rounds, he might have won a few rounds and been in this fight, but he has just not thrown many punches.
And once again, Juan Arroyo's corner has totally soaked his trunks. It looks like he's been out swimming in Biscayne Bay.
He is drenched with water, and I'm really not quite sure what the purpose of that is at this point.
Got to bog you down a little bit. 1 minute into the 10th round.
He doesn't appear tired, and heaven knows this has not been a torrid pace, so that shouldn't be a problem for him.
Well, this is a good fight for Juan Arroyo to come back and maybe regain some confidence that was lost in that bout against Clay Davis.
You know, it's such an entirely different kind of opponent. Clarke has never put pressure on Arroyo, and the feeling is that what you have to do is back him up. Clay Davis did it, and it totally unnerved Arroyo, and they even had him down.
Oh, for the first time in the fight, Clarke has shown us some movement. But he moves and doesn't do anything with it as Arroyo went in and landed the left. Just over a minute to go in the 10th and final round for Miami.
19 years old, Juan Arroyo, still in a way in the learning stage, and a fight against a veteran like this can be helpful.
Less than a minute to go, and a good flurry by Juan Arroyo. Arroyo's corner said 1 minute.
I'm sure they would like Arroyo to finish strongly here and leave a good impression on the minds of the judges and the fans here and also the people watching.
Left jab got in by Arroyo. Clarke, I think, is more or less moving to stay away from Arroyo at this point in time.
Well, at this point, these techniques by Clarke are questionable if he wants to win this fight. As you've said, it's just a matter of now him going 10 rounds, really.
Now he grabs hold with 10 seconds left to go.
I think I've seen more odd strategies and goings on tonight one night than I have in months of boxing.
Got to be a full moon over Miami, and that's it. 10 rounds. Juan Arroyo and Arthur Clarke, junior welterweights, as they congratulate one another at the middle of the ring. Neither fighter really hurt. Both suffered cuts due to butts, but situation where Arroyo, who wanted to move in and mix it up and get it together, going against a guy in Clarke, very defensive-minded, just really wanted nothing to do with that.
And it made Juan Arroyo, as we look at him, maybe look a little more tentative even than he was. Clarke was such a hard man to fight because of the points you just mentioned. And for Arroyo, he certainly did prove that he can be a more disciplined fighter, because that's exactly what he was tonight.
Well, behind the corner of Arthur Clarke, we have some of the fans getting a little overzealous, but as happens sometimes in the crowds at the boxing matches. And we're getting ready for the decision. Juan Arroyo and Arthur Clarke. Let's go to Ramiro Ortiz.
Ladies and gentlemen, Judge Levine scores the fight. Arroyo 100, Clarke 92. Judge Bay scores the fight. Arroyo 98, Clarke 94. Judge Walensky scores the fight. Arroyo 98, Clarke 94. The winner by unanimous decision, Juan Arroyo.
So Juan Arroyo runs his record to 21-1. Arthur Clarke now 13-5. And what about Juan Arroyo down the road, Al?
Well, I think this proved that, as I said, he could be more disciplined, but he's 19 and still learning.
Al, enjoyed working with you once again. For Al Bernstein, this is Roger Twyble saying thanks for being with us. Top Rank Boxing from Miami on ESPN.